The tow truck was already backing into my driveway when I stepped outside with my morning coffee. Behind it, a woman in a red tank top strutted toward my Ford F-150 like she owned the place, clipboard in hand, fake smile plastered across her face. "Excuse me, sir," she called out, not bothering to hide the condescension in her voice. "I'm Diana Walsh, HOA Compliance Director. This vehicle is in violation of Residential Parking Ordinance 847C and needs to be relocated immediately." I looked at my truck parked exactly where it had been for the past 3 years. Same spot, same truck, never a problem before. "Ma'am, I live here, that's my driveway." Diana's smile turned sharp. "Living here doesn't exempt you from community standards. Your vehicle exceeds the weight restrictions for residential zones and poses a safety hazard." She held up official-looking paperwork. "City Fire Department has flagged this as an emergency access violation." The tow truck driver started positioning his rig. "These people weren't here to talk, they were here to steal my truck." "Hold on," I said, pulling out my phone to record. "I'm calling the fire department to verify this violation." Diana's face hardened. "Sir, interfering with official municipal enforcement is a criminal offense. I'm calling the police to ensure compliance." As she dialed 911, I couldn't help but smile, because Diana Walsh had no idea who she was trying to intimidate. "My name is Marcus Thompson, and I've been working as a legal investigator for the state attorney's office for the past 8 years. I've seen every fraud scheme, every fake document, and every intimidation tactic criminals use." And Diana Walsh was about to learn that some people you just don't mess with. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment with your location and what time you're watching. I love connecting with viewers around the world. Diana Walsh wasn't new to this game. Over the past 6 months, she'd been systematically targeting specific residents in Meadowbrook Commons with her fake compliance violations. But her victim selection wasn't random. It was calculated and cruel. The elderly Mr. Chen received citations for unauthorized cultural decorations, bamboo plants in his garden. The young Hispanic family at the corner got fined for excessive visitor violations whenever their relatives came for dinner. Single mother Janet Rodriguez was constantly harassed about her older sedan being an eyesore that violated community aesthetics. But here's what made it worse. Every violation had the same solution. The targeted property had to be relocated for community safety and would be temporarily managed by Diana's son, Kyle, until the homeowner could demonstrate compliance. Kyle Walsh was a 22-year-old dropout who'd been fired from 3 jobs in 2 years. But somehow, he kept showing up around the neighborhood driving different vehicles that belonged to people who'd been cited by his mother, Mr. Chen's vintage motorcycle, the Rodriguez family's work van, Mrs. Patterson's classic Mustang. I'd been documenting this pattern for weeks, watching Diana operate with the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged. She'd perfected a system, fake official documents, intimidation tactics, and a son waiting in the wings to benefit from her crimes. What Diana didn't know was that her latest target wasn't just some random homeowner. I'd been building a case file on her operation for months, waiting for her to make a mistake big enough to guarantee prosecution, and trying to steal a state investigator's truck with forged documents. That was the mistake I'd been waiting for. 2 police cruisers arrived within minutes, sirens wailing like this was a major emergency. Officers Martinez and Jackson stepped out, and I could see them immediately assessing the situation. Tow truck, official-looking woman with paperwork, homeowner with a recording phone. Diana rushed toward them with theatrical urgency. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man is refusing to comply with emergency fire safety violations. His oversized vehicle is blocking crucial emergency access routes." She handed them a thick stack of documents that looked impressively official. City letterheads, municipal seals, reference numbers, legal codes, everything designed to convince officers they were dealing with legitimate municipal authority. Officer Martinez examined the paperwork while Officer Jackson studied the situation. My truck parked normally in my driveway with plenty of clearance on all sides. "Sir," Officer Martinez said to me, "do you have documentation showing you live at this address?" I handed him my driver's license, homeowner's insurance, and vehicle registration, all showing the same address. "Officer, I've lived here for 5 years. My truck has been parked in this exact spot for 3 years without any complaints." Diana jumped in aggressively. "Length of residence doesn't exempt anyone from emergency safety protocols. The fire department specifically requested immediate removal of this oversized vehicle." But Officer Martinez was studying her documents more carefully now. "Ma'am, I'm not familiar with Residential Parking Ordinance 847C. The formatting on these citations doesn't match the standard municipal format we usually see." "Officer, every second of delay increases public safety risk," Diana insisted, but her voice was getting higher, more desperate. "The fire marshal specifically." "Actually," I interrupted calmly, "I'd like to verify these documents with the fire department directly. May I use your radio to contact Fire Chief Williams?" Diana's face went pale. That's not necessary. These are time-sensitive emergency protocols." Officer Martinez was already reaching for his radio. "Fire Chief Williams, this is Unit 12. Can you verify a residential parking violation report for 1247 Oak Street?" The radio crackled back immediately. "Unit 12, we have no violations on file for that address. No emergency access issues reported. No oversized vehicle complaints in our system." The silence that followed was deafening. Diana's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Officer Jackson stepped forward. "Mum, creating false government documents is a serious federal crime. These papers you've presented appear to be fraudulent." That's when Diana made her biggest mistake. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. "Those officers don't understand the new emergency protocols. I have direct authorization from Municipal Emergency Management to handle residential compliance issues." She was still lying, still trying to intimidate her way out of trouble. But now she was doing it in front of 2 police officers who just confirmed her documents were fake. Officer Martinez stepped back and spoke into his radio again. "Dispatch, I need to verify the identity of Diana Walsh, claiming to be HOA Compliance Director for Meadowbrook Commons." While waiting for the response, Officer Jackson examined Diana's credentials more closely. "Ma'am, this HOA Compliance Director badge appears to be homemade. The plastic is wrong, the font doesn't match official municipal badges, and the seal is obviously photocopied." Diana's whole facade was crumbling, but she kept trying to maintain authority. "Officers, I've been managing municipal compliance in this community for over 2 years. Check with the city attorney's office. They'll verify my authorization." That's when I decided it was time to end this charade. "Officers," I said calmly, pulling out my own credentials, "I'm Marcus Thompson, criminal investigator with the state attorney's office. I've been monitoring Ms. Walsh's fraudulent activities for several months as part of an ongoing criminal investigation." The shock on Diana's face was absolutely priceless. Her eyes went wide, her mouth dropped open, and for the first time since this whole confrontation started, she was completely speechless. Officer Martinez examined my state investigator badge and credentials. "Sir, are you saying this is part of an active criminal case?" "That's correct. Ms. Walsh has been operating a systematic fraud scheme targeting vulnerable residents with fake municipal documents. She creates fraudulent citations and violation notices, then arranges for her son to temporarily manage the targeted property, which amounts to theft through fraudulent legal process." Diana finally found her voice, but it came out as a desperate squeak. That's not, I have real authorization. These are legitimate municipal procedures. Officer Jackson was already reaching for his handcuffs. Ma'am, you need to understand that you've just committed multiple felonies in front of 2 police officers and a state investigator. Government impersonation, document fraud, and attempted theft. The tow truck driver, seeing which way the wind was blowing, started unhooking his equipment. Officers, I was just responding to what I thought was a legitimate impound order. If these documents are fake, I'm out of here. The radio response from dispatch was the final nail in Diana's coffin. Unit 12, no, Diana Walsh is registered as an HOA compliance director with the city. No such position exists in our municipal structure. However, we do have multiple fraud complaints filed against a Diana Walsh over the past 3 months. Officer Martinez stepped forward with his handcuffs. Diana Walsh, you're under arrest for government impersonation, document fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft. You can't arrest me, Diana shrieked, her mask of authority completely shattered. I know my rights. I have municipal authorization. This is harassment. But as the handcuffs clicked shut, her protests sounded more and more pathetic. Officer Jackson read her rights while I watched with satisfaction. After months of terrorizing vulnerable neighbors with fake government authority, Diana Walsh was finally facing real government consequences. The search of her vehicle revealed the full scope of her criminal operation. Professional document printing equipment, templates for fake municipal letterheads, and detailed files on potential victims throughout the neighborhood. She had profiles on dozens of residents, including financial assessments and notes about their likelihood to challenge official-looking documents. Most damaging was her target list, handwritten notes identifying elderly residents, immigrants, and single parents as high-compliance probability victims. The calculated cruelty was breathtaking. Officer Martinez photographed everything while calling for a detective to respond to the scene. This is much bigger than simple fraud. We're looking at organized criminal activity targeting vulnerable residents. Diana was still trying to maintain her innocence as they loaded her into the patrol car. This is all a misunderstanding. I'm protecting the community. These people don't understand proper municipal procedures. But her desperate protests were falling on deaf ears. The evidence was overwhelming, the witnesses were credible, and she'd committed her crimes in front of law enforcement officers. As the patrol car pulled away with Diana in the back seat, I felt a deep satisfaction. Not just because my truck was safe, but because a predator who'd been terrorizing innocent neighbors was finally facing justice. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Diana's home search revealed evidence of a fraud operation that had been running for over 2 years across multiple communities. Professional printing equipment, fake government seals, and victim files from 3 different neighborhoods. Kyle Walsh was arrested the same day when police found him driving Mr. Chen's confiscated motorcycle. His text messages with his mother revealed detailed planning of their fraud scheme, including discussions about which residents to target and how to create convincing fake documents. Mom, the old immigrant guy totally bought the cultural violation story, read one text. Like should bring $3K easy if we sell it quick. The scope of their operation was staggering. Bank records showed Kyle had deposited over $45,000 from selling compliance seized property over 18 months. They weren't just thieves, they were professional fraudsters who'd turned community intimidation into a profitable criminal enterprise. But the most satisfying part came during the federal prosecution. The state attorney's office had been building cases against municipal fraud schemes statewide, and Diana's operation became a centerpiece prosecution. At sentencing, Diana faced 8 years in federal prison for government impersonation, document fraud, and racketeering under RICO statutes. Kyle received 6 years for conspiracy and trafficking in stolen goods. Judge Stevens was uncompromising in his remarks. The defendants exploited trust in government institutions to prey on vulnerable residents. This type of systematic fraud undermines the foundation of civic society and requires the harshest possible punishment. The restitution order required them to pay over $150,000 to victims across 3 communities. Every stolen vehicle was returned, every fraudulent fine was refunded, and every family they'd terrorized received compensation for their suffering. But the real victory wasn't the prison sentences or financial restitution. The real victory was the community transformation that followed. Mrs. Patterson got her Mustang back and started a neighborhood watch program. Mr. Chen's bamboo garden became a community gathering place where neighbors learned about document verification and fraud prevention. The Rodriguez family received a settlement that helped them buy a new house in a safer neighborhood. Our community went from being terrorized by fake authority to being protected by real knowledge. We established fraud education programs, created emergency support funds for residents facing intimidation, and built communication networks that would prevent future predators from operating in isolation. The HOA office where Diana used to orchestrate her schemes is now a community resource center focused on helping residents understand their rights and verify official documents. The conference room where she used to plan her fraudulent citations is now used for legal literacy classes and victim assistance workshops. Diana Walsh thought she'd found the perfect crime, using fake government authority to steal from people too vulnerable or intimidated to fight back. She counted on her victims being isolated, confused, and afraid of challenging what appeared to be official documents, but she made one critical mistake. She targeted someone who understood the system, who had the resources to fight back, and who was willing to stand up for the entire community. 6 months later, I still park my truck in the same driveway where this whole nightmare began. But now it's not just my driveway, it's a symbol that predators can't operate freely when communities stand together and refuse to be intimidated. The fake violation tag that started this story is now an exhibit in federal court, being used to train law enforcement about municipal fraud schemes. The evidence package that began in my living room has become a textbook example of how organized communities can expose and prosecute systematic fraud. Sometimes the best defense against bullies isn't fighting back, it's letting them hang themselves with their own lies. Diana Walsh built an elaborate criminal enterprise based on fake authority and intimidation. But real authority, backed by real evidence and real consequences, always wins in the end. If someone tries to intimidate you with official-looking documents, remember this: real government authority can always be verified. Real citations have phone numbers that work. Real violations are backed by real departments with real officials who can confirm or deny their authenticity. Don't let fear make you a victim. Ask questions, demand verification, and never be afraid to challenge authority that seems suspicious. Because sometimes the person trying to steal from you has no idea who they're really dealing with. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have backed down or stood your ground? Let me know in the comments, and if this story inspired you, subscribe for more tales where justice doesn't just win, it protects entire communities.